Welcome to Aswan Forum, the second edition. Egypt has already established a great foundation with Africa during the Egyptian chairmanship of the African Union under the leadership of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. And today, with Aswan Forum second edition is being launched, a continuation is continuing and a sense of coordination is always there. Welcome to Aswan Forum second edition. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi had addressed the second edition of Aswan Forum, commending important and significant efforts and a sense of coordination with all the African leaders in order to put down mechanisms to fight COVID-19.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, Your Excellencies, heads of states and African governments, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. I'm glad at the beginning of my speech to welcome you all in the second edition of Aswan Forum for Sustainable Peace and Development. This African interactive platform that we launched together while Egypt presided over the African Union in the year 2019 to give momentum to an ambitious agenda that works on creating stronger relations between peace, security and sustainable development in our African continent, as well as enhancing cooperation between our countries and our partners. The pandemic COVID-19 has imposed on us different challenges, and we are unable now to meet face-to-face in Aswan as we did last year. Yet Egypt was so keen on holding the second edition of Aswan Forum in a virtual manner to build upon the momentum that was created by the first edition and all its successes. And due to Egypt's belief that this moment is the suitable moment to discuss together the grave challenges facing our continent and to discuss the best means and mechanisms to support our joint efforts for recovery from the pandemic, reconstruction in a better manner, to take our continent out of this crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, we have proved during the past year that the challenges imposed on us by the pandemic and its repercussions won't stop us working on our African agenda, but it increases our persistence to go on implementing our plans for reconstruction in a better manner, to achieve the goals of the African Union and the Agenda 2063, enhancing the African trade agreement by the beginning of this year is the best example of the success of our collective efforts. And here I would like to re-emphasize Egypt's full support to this agenda and the importance of accelerating the implementation of the negotiation phases as well as enforcing its policies. The infrastructure projects are considered to be a main pillar for the efforts of recovery and development in Africa. So we are now in a dire need for ambitious projects like transportation, roads, as well as electricity connectivity to enhance economic integration we are aspiring to. In addition to creating an enabling environment to achieve higher levels of development and growth, in addition to creating job opportunities in a way that would enable us to overcome the repercussions of the pandemic. Egypt's pioneer experience in the field of infrastructure projects is an example we are ready and glad to share with our brothers in Africa. I would like also to highlight the importance of information technology in dealing with the repercussions of the pandemic and its pivotal role in all aspects of our lives. And this confirms the importance of increasing investments in the field of digitization in Africa to maximize the benefit from opportunities this technology creates in different fields. Full recovery from the pandemic necessitates developing sustainable development policies, including social, economic, environmental aspects, as the pandemic showed how the challenges and difficulties facing our countries and our communities are overlapping. I'm confident that the discussions of this forum would create a suitable environment for sharing experiences and opinions regarding developing these policies. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to the burdens shouldered by our countries due to the pandemic, Africa is still suffering from armed conflicts, civil wars that threatens the sustainability of peace and stability in the continent, and terrorism is trying to undermine the stability of our peoples, in addition to the cross-border phenomena like the spread of weapons and smuggling arms and weapons, as well as organized crime, trafficking in persons, forced displacement and migration. The pandemic, with all its repercussions, be it economic or social, led to aggravating these dangers, and this necessitates uniting our efforts to support the African frameworks and mechanisms to settle and prevent conflicts and build the capacities of the African countries to deal with the existing challenges and threats, in addition to the importance of focusing on the role of women in the agenda of peace and security, and investing in a preventive approach for crises and supporting the relation between different actors in the field of peace, development and security in a way that would contribute to dealing with the root causes of conflicts. In this context, I would like to re-emphasize the importance of selecting heritage, art and culture as the topic for the African Union for the year 2020 as the soft power for rapprochement between peoples and as a means to deal in an enlightened manner with the conflicts up to the heritage and the culture of our peoples, and in a way that would enhance peace and development in our great continent. Achieving sustainable peace necessitates the countries getting out of conflicts to be supported through building the power of their institutions for resilience and enabling them to play their roles and give momentum to development. In this context, we emphasize the fact that we would shoulder our responsibility regarding supporting reconstruction in post-conflict eras through supporting the African Union Center for this issue that is located here in Egypt to develop the development plans in coordination with all the relevant countries according to their priorities and national conditions, as well as discussing the best mechanisms and means to implement them on the ground. And the fact that Egypt presides over the Peace Building Committee affiliate to the UN opens the door to enhance cooperation between the African Union and the United Nations in this field. Your Excellencies, heads of states and governments in Africa, ladies and gentlemen, in these extraordinary conditions our world is witnessing today, in light of the spread of the pandemic, Egypt emphasizes the fact that international solidarity is a need so that humanity would get out of this crisis in peace and security and safely. Despite our regional and international efforts to confront this pandemic, the current phase came with new challenges, on top of which is providing the vaccine needed for our peoples. And here I would like to emphasize that the African request to provide the vaccines in a just manner to meet the needs of the peoples of our African continent is a must. Ladies and gentlemen, I wrap up my speech wishing to meet you face to face soon after closing this chapter of the pandemic, so that we can hold the next edition of Aswan Forum face to face in Aswan, the land of history and civilization. Thank you for your due listening, and peace be upon you. development of peace-building process and the prevention of conflicts, as well as efforts to fight terrorism, in addition to supporting the agenda of women, peace and security, and dealing with displacement because of conflicts. All these topics would be covered in light of the additional challenges imposed by the pandemic on Africa, as well as working on coming up with specific recommendations that would contribute to the African response to all these challenges. In addition to all these topics, the discussions of the second edition of the forum would discuss top priority issues for the African continent.
It's an honor and pleasure to have with us His Excellency Ambassador Ahmed Abdel Latif, Executive Director of the Aswan Forum. Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining Nile TV International. Aswan Forum in the first edition was mainly tackling sustainability and peace in Africa. This in addition to more than one important topic on the agenda. I guess this year it's also important fighting together COVID-19 all over the African continent.
Yes, indeed. I think President Sisi focused on peace, security and sustainable development in Africa, but in the overall context of addressing the challenges raised by the COVID pandemic for Africa, and how can Africa overcome these challenges. So I think His Excellency had a very clear message that Africa is united, Africa is going forward, Africa wants to develop, expand its economies, increase trade, and also strengthen peace and security. And the Aswan Forum bring all these themes together to see how we can translate them into action in the ground in a concrete manner.
We were also tackling more concerning charting ways for Africa to rebuild itself.
The Aswan Forum is not a standalone event. It is a process, it's a cycle. And it has a very robust preparatory phase, where we had a lot of workshops and webinars that bring together experts, representatives of international and regional organizations, government representatives, academic experts, and they discuss the most pressing challenges facing Africa. And for this edition, we discussed issues such as addressing terrorism, advancing the women, peace and security agenda, looking at the interface between migration, development and security, and also climate change, development and security. And I think all these discussions feed into the deliberations that we witnessed today at the forum. And also at the same time, we have seen a lot of guidance from the heads of state of Africa, from the presidents, who also provide very clear guidance on how should Africa go forward and how the forum could help contribute to address the challenges facing the continent.
Your Excellency, looking forward to the recommendations of this important gathering, what would you tell us today?
Well, the recommendations of the second edition will build on the first edition. The main message of the first edition is that Africa needs to shift from crisis management to long-term sustainable peace and development through holistic solutions, through comprehensive approaches. And the COVID-19 pandemic actually even strengthening the rationale of this approach. It makes it even more clearer that when African countries are stronger to better equipped to deal with crisis, they can deal with economic crisis, health crisis, environmental crisis. So they're all interconnected, and the recommendations of the second editions will show how advancing the response to the coronavirus and advancing the recovery can also help address sustainable development, peace and security for Africa.
African leaders in their speeches commended efforts by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to unify Africa, and also efforts exerted during this important year of the Egyptian chairmanship in order to foster further efforts of a sense of coordination all over the African continent. Let's watch.
Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me first congratulate President Sisi and the government of Egypt for convening the second edition of the Aswan Forum.
Je voudrais, à l'entame de mon propos, remercier notre frère, M. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, président de la République arabe d'Égypte, qui a bien voulu nous convier à prendre part à cette deuxième édition du Forum d'Aswan pour la paix et le développement durable sur le thème « Façonner la nouvelle normalité de l'Afrique, récupérer plus fort, reconstruire en mieux ».
President of the Sisterly Arab Republic of Egypt, for inviting me to participate in this important forum. In South Sudan, we are keenly aware that we are not living in normal times, and this keen awareness allow us to appreciate our participation in forums like this.
Excellence, M. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, président de la République arabe d'Égypte, chers frères, mesdames, messieurs, comme l'année dernière, je me réjouis de prendre part à cette deuxième édition du Forum d'Aswan et remercie mon frère, le président Abdel Fattah al-Sisi.
Excellence, M. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, président de la République arabe d'Égypte, mesdames et messieurs, chers participants, permettez-moi avant tout propos d'exprimer ma sincère gratitude à mon frère et ami le président Abdel Fattah al-Sisi pour m'avoir invité à ce deuxième forum d'Aswan sur la paix et le développement durable en Afrique.
To participate in this second edition of the Aswan Forum on Sustainable Peace and Development. My country is grateful to the government and the people of the Arab Republic of Egypt for the generous donation of PPEs to the African Union COVID-19 Response Fund.
Régionaux et internationaux, que l'Afrique doit surmonter ces défis, être exemptée des conflits fratricides et saisir toutes les opportunités qui lui sont offertes pour l'éclosion d'un continent prospère au profit des Africains et de l'humanité entière.
Assalamu alaikum. It is a pleasure to greet this year's Aswan Forum. I welcome your focus on shaping Africa's new normal, recovering stronger, rebuilding better. COVID-19 continues to upend lives and economies across the world, endangering our work for peace, human rights, and the sustainable development goals. 2021 must be the year to get on track. Pandemic recovery is our chance. Now, African countries and the African Union have shown leadership and unity in response to this unparalleled test.
On the sidelines of the Aswan Forum, the second edition, it's always a pleasure and honor to have with us His Excellency Ambassador Hamdi Louza, who is the Deputy Foreign Minister for African Affairs. Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining Nile TV International Aswan Forum in its second edition, a continuation of discussing important topics, namely sustainable peace and development and more.
Yes, I don't know if you attended the Aswan Forum 1. It was held in Aswan and it was a success in terms of high-level attendance, deep subjects that were addressed during Aswan 1, and very concrete recommendations coming out of the forum. So we were trying to find a way to hold Aswan 2. As you can see, it is held virtually but with some presence, so it's a hybrid way of holding Aswan 2. And as you mentioned, we will deal with most of the issues that were addressed in Aswan 1. In addition, of course, the issue of COVID-19, how it had an impact on African countries in terms of internal situation, equilibrium between different countries in Africa, and how they are coping with COVID-19, whether nationally or regionally. And this is an important issue. In addition, we will deal with specific region in Africa, like the Sahel region, and the issue of the Red Sea, which is also very important for Arab and African countries. In addition, of course, to terrorism, to climate change, the situation of women will be addressed. Youth participation is also addressed in this forum.
Your Excellency, Egypt achieved a lot during the chairmanship of the African Union under the leadership of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. It was a solid foundation, continuation on the sense of coordination with Africa. Also, His Excellency is always coordinating with the leaders vis-a-vis the coordination to fight COVID-19. And this, I guess, is quite important on the agenda this time.
Yes, I think you mentioned two key words. Foundation and continuation. In fact, Egyptian policy regarding more active relations with other African countries started in 2014. And since that time, we have been building up, expanding our relations and deepening our relations with other African countries. Of course, 2019 saw a very crucial forward-looking strategy during our presidency, but it was clear during that year that our intention is not just to fill the presidency during 2019, but to build the foundation for future relations with other African countries. We have been part of the Bureau in 2020, and now, even if we are not part of the Bureau, we are still active. We can see that not only different ministries, but also the Egyptian private sector is becoming more and more active in more African countries.
Aswan Forum second edition is a continuation on what has been achieved in the first edition, talking peace and development and sustainability in Africa. This in addition to the sense of coordination in fighting COVID-19 pandemic. Many thanks for watching.